We've learned about the different settings to change the exposure and also what each side effect is. But purely looking at exposure, when is my shot underexposed or overexposed? Underexposed means that it's too dark, and even outdoor during a sunny day, a shot can look too dark. You've closed the aperture too much, or you've set the shutter speed too high. So deciding whether or not your shot is well exposed can be done by simply looking at the display of your camera, right? Well, it's kind of like going outside and guessing what temperature it is. I mean, you can get a sense whether it's warm or cold, but to know the exact temperature, we use a thermometer. And that's the same thing with your camera. We use a tool called the histogram to measure the exposure so that we can make better decisions to what we need to set the aperture, ISO, or shutter speed at. That histogram looks something like this. So before we continue with the lesson, pause this video just for a brief moment and try to find that setting in your camera. Make sure that it's displayed on the monitor. Now, for some camera models, you need to press the display button a couple of times. For others, it could be a setting that needs to be turned on within the menus. Alright, so we're looking at some sort of a diagram. This information shows the light, or the exposure. On the left side sit the dark areas, and on the right side the bright. So when I close my aperture, you'll see that the diagram moves towards the left, and when I open the aperture, the information moves to the right. So ideally, you want to make sure that the histogram has its graph somewhere within the middle and not touch one of the outsides. This way I know that there are no parts in my shot underexposed and no parts are overexposed. In a studio environment like this, it's easy because I have full control over the light and the scenery. But when going outside, this gets trickier. We have a strong sunlight and white reflections in the shot, as well as a person standing in the shadow. This is a big contrast, and when looking at the histogram, there seems to be two peaks at both the dark and the bright areas. On the left sits the information of the talent in the shadow, and on the right the information of the white reflector. It's impossible to get the diagram into the middle because of that contrast, a situation that you'll face a lot, by the way. Here it's important to make a choice. Do you want to see detail in the reflector or on the talent? Well, I think in this case the talent is more important, so let's open up the aperture and bring the diagram loose from the left side of the histogram. Now don't put it in the middle though. The talent stands in the shadows. It is dark, so keep it dark, just don't make it underexposed, losing all detail. Now, this has been an extreme example. Another more likely situation is where you film your subject in front of a bright sky. Now, one could argue that the subject is too dark when we try to aim all of the information in the middle of the diagram. So we expose more. Right now, the sky will get overexposed, and this is a very typical shot that a beginner filmmaker makes. However, the sky is too prominent that I would not recommend doing this. Try to get the bright areas loose from the histogram's right side, bringing back detail in the sky. You want to see the structure of the clouds and not just white blobs. Yes, your talent is a little bit too dark, but there's still detail. We can see the face, and if you can, it's always better to underexpose than to overexpose. That's what separates a professional from a beginner. Now, what about the talent and skin tones in general? Now, we could see the histogram as a percentage bar, where on the left sits 0% black and on the right side sits 100% white. Brighter skin tones like myself should be around 70%. So when I make a shot of my talent, I could move a little bit closer in to see the information of the face only, and I'll try to get the diagram somewhere around the 70%. When I move back out to make my medium shot or whatever, I know that I have exposed my shot correctly for the skin tones. When working with a talent who has dark skin tones, you could aim at around 50%. But do take that with a grain of salt. You know, this 70 or 50% is academically correct, but it's good to know these academic standards. So that's how the histogram works. Definitely use it all the time to double check whether or not something is over or underexposed. Your display does not represent the exposure correctly, which is why you have to use that tool.